Let me tell you, when you take that ride, a good meal offered freely in combination with genuine personal support supports living over dying. So that's one of the places that hippie funding needs to go. Now I want to talk about a second direction, and that's just to secure the basic human rights to housing and to emergency shelter. Of course, the most effective way to get people food is to increase their income. The issue people face in our world right now is that what they've always faced. They don't have enough access to money. It's appalling. We have a world where money dictates whether someone's human rights will be respected and secured or disrespected and denied. And we have governments which deny their obligations to uphold basic human rights. The right to housing, when needed, the right to emergency shelter, the right to nutritious and adequate food, to income, and to income earning opportunities, and the right to education and training that supports people living in dignity and safety. What I see daily is the evidence of what happens when human rights and human safety is ignored and trampled on. So we need extra hippie funding to support those rights and to address a couple of these very specific issues. Emergency shelter. Every day when I go to work, we wake the sleepers that take refuge at the front of our building. They sleep in an alcove area leading to our upstairs housing. There are 10 units upstairs. It's a short flight of stairs up to that housing, but a very long journey away from the street. They sleep there because they fear the shelters that are full and disease-ridden and bed-bug-ridden and overcrowded. And they fear the parks because of the police. So we need to see an emergency shelter system carry out its function fully and responsibly. And that means it must create shelter capacity required to meet the need it faces and the need that is coming to it. I'd like to just be able to speak off the cuff here today, but I had to think about this last night and I just couldn't do it. I'm going to give you another snapshot example. We've got 10 units of good housing upstairs at my drop-in, but nobody there is moving. And all the people that live there, they once lived on the streets. And we're struggling right now to build another 29 units of housing. And God, what a struggle that is. And you know the reason we do not have the housing required is because we can't get what we need to build it. It's hard enough to get the sites for housing development, but then it's harder still to get the government funding. And then when you do get that funding, you better be prepared to do the extra work to fundraise to even stay in the game and get your project off the ground. Well, we could use hippie funding to do a little less fundraising and a little more building of housing. So we need a fully funded national housing strategy.
Housing now.
Housing now.
Housing the right.
No more promises. Let's see it being built. So what we've got is a communities in crisis. And that level of crisis is deepening in this recession. We need to use extra hippie funding to ease that crisis. All the barometers are there. You've heard about some of them. Here are a few more. In the ONFA report, nonprofit housing builders talked about where is the housing, and they said the overall mood is anxiety and worry. We've got 25% of Ontarians spending more than 50% of their income on rent. We've got 50% of people in Ontario spending more than 30% of their income on rent. We've got housing vacancy rates falling. They're 2% and dropping, and we know what happens when they go under 2%. More and more people on the streets. We've got neighborhoods in conflict. More and more we see neighborhoods changing, opposition to new housing developments for lower income people, gentrification driving people out of their home neighborhoods, and the logical drift that comes as a result of that, with low income people ending up in the poorest housing stock, the most unsafe housing stock, and living there on the brink of eviction. Right now at Park, it's common for people to be coming to us with their eviction notices as their properties are bought from under them, and those eviction notices are illegal. So we've got to stem this tide. There's dollars that are needed to prevent evictions, to help people pay their rents. And we've got to do more than that. We've got to help people have some mobility. Poverty limits people's ability to get to community resources that solve problems and build solutions. Public transit access is a crucial resource. And it's for the people. It should be for all the people. But right now, many agencies are cutting back. Others are taking it on the chin and going into debt, trying to help people get on those streetcars and get to doctor's appointments, get to shelters, get to the resources that they need to build their lives. Last, I just want to talk about the community and community infrastructure and programs. You know, the last thing I want to talk about, this is personal in nature. I came to work in this field about 30 years ago, and so I've been down a lot of roads, and I've done my fair share of fundraising and funding proposals and community actions and strategizing. And even though I'm a manager, I'm still a frontline worker at heart. I like hammering, I like painting, and I like building things. And I love the stories of the people I've met that have given me some instruction about what's important in this world. Those have provided me with some pretty valuable moments. But I've also had my fair share of sadness and anger. The sadness and anger that comes from the moments when you lose people and you bury people, and the moments when you go home at the end of the day knowing that no matter how hard you've worked, it is not enough. It is too little or too late. So what's going on in the agencies right now? Well, again, the mood is anxious and worried. I can tell you that there are many, many organizations that are struggling. They are working their way into deficit situations. They are overextended. They are worried about laying off their staff. And they're fundraising like crazy and competing against each other for a greatly reduced pot of dollars. So that's another reason why that hippie fund needs to go up. We are spending a vast amount of energy begging for charity when what we need is the money to do the work we are supposed to be doing. You know, it takes a long time to make good community support programs, but it takes only a little bit of neglect and ignorance to destroy them. So we do need the Doe, Ray, and me, you know. The Doe first, and then maybe the Ray, maybe a ray of light in some of this darkness, and then maybe a different definition of me, one that's not about selfishness and greed, but it's about generosity. Thanks.
I also urge you to go on the Recession Relief Coalition website. It's recession-relief-coalition, and we're a .org. So please go on. Find out what we're doing, find out about our actions, find out about the Recession Relief Fund Declaration. If you haven't signed it, sign it and get involved, because we need help. The people, the average Canadians, the people without jobs, the people that are struggling need help. They need it now. The support structure, the agencies, you heard Bob Rose, they are struggling. In 6 months, many will be closing. They need help now. And it's not just the people that need help, because these people are our citizens. These people represent our society. And our society needs help. And the governments need to wake up. They need to see what's really going on, and they need to respond. And the only way sometimes that they will respond is if you contact them, you write them, you get involved, you get organized, and you tell them what they need to do. And with an election probably around the corner, you know what? They may even listen.